All right, so it's been about a month and a half since Bryan Callen started working for Steven Crowder, and it has not been going very well. I'm sure he's getting paid, I'm sure he's making decent money, but if you have to get humiliated on a daily basis, I don't know if it's worth it. Like with Dave Landau, Steven's former co-host, it sounded like he could not take it working there anymore. Steven was just way too controlling. He said he even has this light that he flips on whenever he wants his co-host to shut up.
Wait, so how were you informed that there is a don't talk light, and what was your reaction?
I was pissed a bit because I know my job. I
Right.
know that he talks a lot. I know that he's the star of the show. I know when to throw him what he needs to be thrown. I know when to sit back. It was just, hey, don't be funnier. Don't be and it's that's the truth. I mean, it sounds bitter, but I knew it was true because I was pulled aside and I said it, and it was, hey, make sure if you're doing a rant or like you guys are riffing, he gets the last word.
You were told this explicitly?
Yes.
And the other day on Crowder's show, we got to see this in action with Bryan Callen. And man, it's embarrassing. You know, I thought this was going to be some subtle thing that Steven does where nobody really notices, but it's very obvious. And it was hilarious. He treats Bryan like a dog. It's pathetic.
You think? I bet you probably think ladies. I bet you probably think ladies have.
Ladies.
Huh? I bet you probably think that. Look.
Man, I hope he invites Brendan Schaub on the show sometime. That would be so funny. You know, if Steven's getting annoyed with Bryan talking too much and he has to tell him to shut up, I can't imagine what he'd be like with Brendan Schaub there, interrupting every 5 seconds and just going on and on about nonsense. Steven would lose his mind. But maybe that's why Steven picked Bryan, because he figured if he could put up with Brendan Schaub for 10 years and his ego, then he could probably deal with Steven, like constantly telling him to shut up and telling him what to do and everything. I mean, it sounds like you have to put up with a lot if you're working for Steven. Like some of his former employees said that he's allegedly always yelling at them and berating them, and he's always making unreasonable requests. I mean, just with Bryan Callen, he posted this video to Instagram. I think I played this in my last Steven Crowder video, but Steven just seems so annoyed with him. And at first I thought it was a joke, but now that all this information has come out, looking back on it, he's probably being serious.
You only need to hit a button there, like cross. I know, but I'm trying to do promotion right now. Steven, let's go live. Let's make this the best show ever.
Is this already live?
No, but I'm.
You have no idea what I could have been doing, and that camera's turned on.
Well, yeah, but
That's
the
why
way
you get in trouble, Brian.
But you move
That's
like
why you get in trouble.
You move like a jungle cat.
And then also it's come out that Steven, during some shoots, he allegedly would expose himself and try to teabag one of his employees. So, I mean, this sounds like a wild scene going on here, but that whole part of it, that might just be a bonus for Bryan. I don't know if he really minds that kind of thing.
I don't know. I'm producing estrogen. I'm looking at you, and you look like a lumberjack. You're strapped.
Yeah.
And you make me feel safe. I want to crawl up in your lap. There's a fireplace.
glad
I
it
want you
went
to tell
lap.
me a story.
Otherwise, I go on Richard Gere in an empty roll of toilet paper direction.
And then also Owen Benjamin chimed in on all this. If you're not familiar with him, I made a whole video talking about him, but he used to work with Steven, and he thought some of the stuff that Steven did was questionable. He said one time they're doing a song making fun of transgenderism, and he said right before the show, they put him in tight white pants and a bedazzled cape, and Steven wore a Speedo and leather chaps, and he said they're doing this to try to own the left, but then he kind of realized it was getting weird, and he still went along with it because he didn't want to let the team down, and Steven was the team leader. But now he says, over time, I realized more and more that we weren't owning anybody. I just kept being asked to wear really degrading and sexualizing outfits. And the only thing that Steven is owning is a bunch of dresses and a broken home. Changed my mind. And I actually think there might be something here. It is a little strange how much Steven likes to dress up in costumes and in drag specifically. I mean, I could find 4 or 5 pictures of him cross-dressing, which is kind of weird for somebody that hates it that much. Like, why are you doing this? You know, nobody's forcing you to do this. He's probably saying he's doing it for comedy and to own the left and everything. But after a while, it's like, maybe you're using that as an excuse because you actually just like to do it. And now he's got Bryan Callen in on all this. And Bryan, he seems like he's down with it for the most part. You know, he is an actor, so I'm sure he's used to doing some weird stuff like this. But for Steven Crowder, and it seems like Steven's doing this to humiliate him or something, you know, after the previous stuff we've seen, it definitely seems like he likes embarrassing Bryan. So this is just so bizarre. Like, Steven just posted this video to his Twitter.
Give me that milk. Give me that milk.
Yeah, so this is not looking good for Bryan Callen. It's crazy. Not too long ago, this guy was about to get his own TV show on ABC. Things were looking up, and then he got canceled, and now he's working for Steven Crowder, getting humiliated every day, and now he's talked him into doing this kind of stuff. and I would imagine it only gets worse from here. So I don't know how much longer Bryan wants to put up with it, even though it seems like he doesn't mind too much. I guess we'll just have to see. I mean, I'm sure Steven's just going to ask him to do weirder and weirder things. But let me know what you guys think about it all down in the comments. And if you like this content, make sure you check out my Patreon. I have a bunch of videos up there, maybe like 15 to 20 at this point. I just posted one about how Tim Dillon completely broke Eric Weinstein. It was pretty funny. So if you want to see any extra content, check that out. And then make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.